I'm 25, and for the last 5 years, I've been married to Kay, who is 26. Yesterday, she admitted to something that shook the ground under me. She made out with 2 of her coworkers at a party. I wasn't prepared for what she said. After hearing her out, I clammed up, packed a bag, and left. I didn't argue, didn't cry. I couldn't. I slept in my car that night, though slept might be generous. I was restless, trapped in my thoughts, replaying her words over and over. The morning came, but it didn't bring clarity. I forced myself to go to work, but I couldn't focus. I'm at a McDonald's now, staring at food I can't eat, trying to make sense of what happened. The numbness I feel is eerily familiar, like the shock I experienced years ago after a serious car accident. Back then, I went into survival mode, functioning on autopilot. It feels the same now, like my brain can't process the magnitude of what's happening. Who even is she anymore? I keep asking myself that, but the answers don't come. I've always prided myself on being someone who stays calm under pressure, someone who can hold it together when things fall apart. But this feels different. It's like my life has been flipped upside down, and I'm left trying to make sense of a reality that doesn't match the one I thought I knew. Honestly, I feel pathetic for saying this, but I don't think I can navigate this on my own. I need someone to guide me, to tell me what to do next. My family means well, but I know they'll give me advice that's emotional, not practical. My closest friend, the one person who could help me think clearly, is unreachable until the end of July. The thing is, I don't want my marriage to end. Despite everything, I still want to believe we can fix this. But how? How do you rebuild trust when it feels like your entire foundation has been blown apart? Where do you even start? This isn't the kind of pain that just fades with time. It's not something you can brush off or forget. I know I'll need to face it head-on, but right now, I'm overwhelmed and completely lost. After leaving that night, I tried to piece together what had gone wrong. Kay and I had always been close, or so I thought. But as I sat in that McDonald's and later, at work, unable to focus, I started to notice cracks I hadn't seen before. She'd been distant for months, pulling away in ways that, at the time, I chalked up to stress or routine. Now, I was beginning to question everything. Later that evening, we sat down to have the first of what would become a series of difficult conversations. Kay explained what had happened. She claimed that one of her coworkers, a man I'll call A1, had pressured her into kissing another coworker, A2, at a work event. What she described sounded less like casual infidelity and more like coercion. According to her, A1 had been holding some kind of leverage over her, a picture of her kissing A2 from a previous party, which he used to push her into escalating their encounters. She insisted she was manipulated, that she felt trapped, and that she didn't know how to tell me. I wanted to believe her, but it was hard to ignore the timeline. These incidents weren't recent. They'd started almost a year ago. She claimed she had been trying to protect me and our marriage by keeping it quiet, but that logic twisted my stomach. How could she possibly think hiding something so big was for my benefit? I told her she needed to write everything down, every detail, every truth, because I couldn't handle hearing it piece by piece. I needed to know exactly what I was dealing with. She agreed. When I came home from work the next day, she handed me a long, handwritten account of what had happened. As I read it, the reality of her betrayal deepened. It wasn't just kissing at a party. It was a sustained, secretive relationship with both A1 and A2, escalating to things I didn't want to picture but now couldn't unsee. Her story revealed a pattern. It started with a kiss at a party in May of 2018, a joke, she said, after landing a big client. A1 had snapped a picture of it, and over the months, he'd used that picture and other videos to manipulate her into further encounters. When she threatened to stop or leave, he'd remind her of what he had and what he could do with it. She said she stayed out of fear, but part of me couldn't help but wonder if fear was the whole story. Her confession also revealed how much she had been pulling away from me during this time. I remembered feeling hurt by her distance, wondering if I had done something wrong. Now I knew why. She wasn't just emotionally absent, she was emotionally invested elsewhere. The betrayal stung even more knowing she had been choosing to hide this from me for so long. The morning after our discussion, I received a video from an unknown number. It showed Kay in bed with both A1 and A2. The sender's number had already been disconnected, so there was no way to trace it. I confronted her again, telling her I knew more than she'd admitted. This time, I demanded the whole truth, no matter how ugly. I told her that if I caught any inconsistencies in her story, I'd leave immediately. At my insistence, Kay quit her job and sent a formal message to A1 cutting all ties. But the damage had already been done. Her actions, her hesitation to come clean, and the sheer weight of what had happened left me questioning everything about our relationship. Despite everything, part of me still wanted to make this work. But I wasn't sure how, or if I could. I scheduled a consultation with a lawyer as a precaution. I also told Kay to stay with her parents for a few days so I could clear my head. I needed space to think, away from her, away from the constant reminders of what she'd done. In the days that followed, I felt like I was spiraling. My heart felt like it had been hollowed out. I couldn't concentrate at work, and I found myself replaying every moment of our marriage, trying to pinpoint the signs I'd missed. Why hadn't she come to me earlier? Why had she let things go so far? And why was I still considering reconciliation when every instinct told me to walk away? The days after Kay's confession were some of the hardest of my life. Each morning, I woke up feeling like I'd been hit by a truck, the weight of her betrayal pressing down on me. I tried to function, walking my dog, going to work, but every moment felt surreal, like I was living someone else's life. Then, late one night, Kay sent me a text from her parents' house. It was long and apologetic, saying she was committed to rebuilding our relationship and that she would do whatever it took to earn my forgiveness. But the sincerity of her words was hard to trust. My mind kept replaying the video of her with A1 and A2, a haunting reminder of how far things had gone. I knew we couldn't move forward without professional help, so I arranged for us to attend both couples therapy and individual sessions. The first therapy session was tense. Kay expressed guilt and shame, but it felt hollow. I found myself sitting there, detached, as if I was watching the scene unfold from a distance. The therapist asked pointed questions about why Kay waited so long to tell me and what she was hoping to gain by staying silent. Her answers didn't bring much clarity, they only deepened my confusion. In one session, Kay admitted she felt weak and insecure during the time she was involved with A1 and A2. She claimed she didn't believe in her own worth and thought her silence was the only way to keep our relationship intact. I couldn't understand that logic. If she truly cared about us, why didn't she trust me enough to come forward earlier? Why didn't she fight for our marriage before things spiraled out of control? As if things weren't complicated enough, Kay started pressuring me in disturbing ways. During one heated argument, she told me I should hit her if it would make me feel better. Her words left me sick to my stomach. I couldn't comprehend how she thought that would solve anything or why she would even suggest it. It felt manipulative, as if she wanted to redirect the guilt onto me. Meanwhile, my mental health was deteriorating. The betrayal consumed me, making it hard to focus on anything else. I started considering divorce more seriously, even though part of me still clung to the idea of reconciliation. The indecision was unbearable, leaving me trapped in limbo. Then came the turning point. One night, while walking my dog, I realized how deeply I had lost myself in this mess. For so long, my decisions had revolved around Kay, what she wanted, what she needed. But for the first time, I thought about what I wanted. I picked up a pizza on the way home and, for the first time in years, ordered it with red onions, a topping Kay hated but I loved. As I ate that pizza, I felt a small sense of control returning. It was such a minor thing, but it was a moment of clarity. I didn't need to keep sacrificing parts of myself for someone who had hurt me so deeply. Around the same time, a conversation with a client shifted my perspective further. This client had noticed I seemed down and offered me a connection to a large contract for training security dogs. His kindness felt like a lifeline, a reminder that life could still move forward, even in the midst of chaos. Despite these small moments of clarity, Kay continued to push for reconciliation. She promised she was committed to fixing things, even after quitting her job and cutting ties with A1 and A2. But her actions felt like too little, too late. She had already made choices that showed where her priorities lay, and I couldn't ignore the patterns of manipulation and secrecy that had defined the last year of our marriage. I decided to consult a lawyer again, this time with a clearer sense of purpose. While I wasn't ready to make my decision public, I started putting together a plan to leave. I knew I needed to protect myself, emotionally and financially, before I could fully separate from her. Each day, I felt myself growing stronger, even as the pain lingered. I began to see that my life didn't have to revolve around Kay or the wreckage of our relationship. There was a path forward for me, even if it meant walking away from everything we had built together. In the end, I made the hardest decision of my life. I chose to leave. After weeks of uncertainty, I realized that staying in the marriage would mean sacrificing my self-respect and peace of mind. The betrayal wasn't just a mistake, it was a pattern of dishonesty and manipulation that had fundamentally broken the trust between us. Kay and I finalized our divorce amicably, though not without emotional turmoil. She continued to push for reconciliation even as the process unfolded, but I remained firm in my decision. I knew that rebuilding my life would be painful, but it was better than staying trapped in a relationship that had become toxic. In the months following our separation, I focused on rebuilding myself. My dog, Maya, became my constant source of comfort. She reminded me that, even in the darkest moments, there were small joys to hold on to. I found a new sense of purpose through my work, landing a major contract that helped stabilize my finances and gave me something to look forward to. Kay continued to reach out, sending daily texts and trying to involve our families in her efforts to win me back. But I didn't respond. I knew that no amount of words could undo the damage she had caused. Her apologies felt hollow, and her actions had already shown me where her priorities truly lay. Surprisingly, I found strength in the small victories. Enjoying a pizza with red onions. Watching Maya play with her new companion, a dog I adopted to give her company. Securing a future where I didn't have to compromise my happiness for someone else's mistakes. Even now, the pain lingers. There are moments when the weight of it all feels unbearable, but those moments are growing fewer. I'm learning to live in the slivers of light that break through the darkness. I know healing will take time, and I'm not rushing it. To anyone reading this who finds themselves in a similar situation, know that it's okay to choose yourself. It's okay to walk away from something that no longer serves you, even if it means starting over. Life is messy, but there's always hope for something better on the other side of the chaos. Thank you for taking the time to read my story. If it resonated with you, please consider following my YouTube channel for more discussions about relationships, personal growth, and finding strength in difficult times.